Hello, pilot. I think it's about time we wrapped this up. When we left off, Team Effort had just taken the docks and secured the access hatch to the Western submarine. As this was an important moment in the story and essentially what the entire adventure had been building towards, I decided to run this as a narrative scene, making the players actually attempt a rescue mission rather than hand-waving it to get to the next combat. As this game is very player forwards and relies on them to move the action onwards, I kept my notes brief and prepared to improvise heavily for this narrative scene. All I had written down were the following steps: mech hangar full of soldiers and powered down mechs, maze of corridors, a confusing labyrinth of metal hallways, soldiers creating barricades, holding room, hostages are being held here, metallic dog drones and soldiers, and alarm, the sub is about to submerge, party has to flee. I also knew that I wanted the mech hangar to be large enough to support the mechs, but I wanted the rest of the steps to be done on foot. Here is how it went. Team Effort rushed towards the open hatch and saw that it would be a long drop down into the hangar. Typically, this hatch would use an elevator system, but with the urgency of the submarine imminently departing, they didn't have time to hack and wait for the elevator. Instead, Aramis used her Ferris Lash to quickly lower each mech to a safe height, and then she flew down after them. I asked which order they wanted to descend in, and this was important as when the first squad member landed in the mech hangar, they saw dozens of soldiers rushing towards powered down mechs and weapon racks. You begin with Jackalope, you gravity lash him down, and Jackalope, you descend this distance. There's a bit of a drop where you just sort of have to brace your knees on your mech to sort of bounce it against the ground. You notice
I've got to feel that in my mecha bones.
You notice that you're in a large hangar, essentially, for mechs. It's currently full of soldiers that are running around like maniacs, and there are several powered down mechs. What is your first instinct? Because as you land, the soldiers suddenly turn and notice you and begin running for weapons racks or running towards the mechs.
I mean, if they're running for weapon racks, they're combatants.
There are some running for the mechs behind you, who are already behind you.
Then they're also combatants.
I want to turn around and try to intimidate the ones that are running to the max by like doing a little power up with my flamethrower, shooting out a little bit of flame.
Okay.
Just to make it clear that they will not be fast enough in the max to not get roasted.
Upon rolling a 9, the soldiers mistook this attempt to intimidate them for Jackalope powering up for an attack, and they rushed towards the mechs with extra panic and determination. 2 of the pilots managed to reach some standard assault mechs and began climbing into the cockpits as engineers released the bracing clamps, holding them to the wall. At this moment, I allowed a second pilot to enter the scene. Archangel descended from the hatch. Archangel, you drop down. You see a similar thing, except you see the people actually, they're climbing into mechs behind you. People in front are now pulling weapons off of weapon racks.
Oh no.
I mean, we could burn one of the mechs and then I can try to inspire/lead them to surrendering.
Sure, if we don't want to go into war crime territory.
I mean, is this war crime? We're on a rescue mission at this point.
I know. The thing is, because I was trying to intimidate them and they were unimpressed. So, the next instinct for me would be to, actually start burning them because, clearly they're not afraid of fire.
Right, exactly. You start that, and then I back it up with my words.
I would say, because they're now currently there are people all over these mechs now.
Yeah.
You can flamethrower the mechs. You don't need to roll for that because they're stationary. You can just unload your flamethrower onto them.
Okay, because I would torch one of the mechs.
Okay, so you torch one of the mechs. The people on it obviously incinerate in a moment. The others stagger back from the now wave of
conflagration.
flame. Yeah. As Jackalope ignited one of the mechs and caused the Vestan troops to cower away from the flames, Archangel called out to the other pilots and engineers with a successful lead or inspire check.
Yeah, basically, I'm going to level my rifle at the other mech, one more step, and I'm going to blow this reactor. You have one chance. You surrender now, or we send you to whatever unholy god you all believe in.
After this show of power, the collection of Vestan forces around the mechs cowered into a group and backed away from the mechs. Unfortunately, since all their attention had been on the stationary mechs and pilots, as Mother entered the scene, she was met with a volley of assault rifle fire from the dozens of soldiers that were now armed and making a stand.
So everyone who's attacking me is not in the mech then, right?
No,
They're just-
these are unmechted soldiers.
Aw, easy.
They're just doing paint scratches.
That's so sad. I can't hack them. That gives me big sadness.
There are
One
other
second.
objectives. Obviously, you don't currently know where Banner J or Faris are, so that is something that you will eventually take chip damage from the guns, but you can leave that to somebody else if you want, and you can start trying to figure out where they are. You also need to know like the route around this ship. There's a bunch of stuff that you could do aside from dealing with these soldiers if you don't want
If
to.
they're still shooting when I get down there, I'm gonna start running at them with my axe.
This guy has trauma.
Can you maybe? I don't know if it's possible. Can you maybe hack the submarine mainframe?
Yeah, I'm wondering if I can make like a false alarm or something. Or you said the alarm is ringing already.
Yeah,
I
there is
want
a
to change
blaring
it to
alarm.
very distracting music.
Okay, sure. Do you have a
To, you know,
sure.
like Japanese fun pop or something.
Okay.
That's not distracting, that's just a banger.
The whole submarine is vibing now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes, and while doing so, can I also like try to download the map of the... Oh my god, submarine. I'm sorry, I want to say the German word the whole time.
That's
Breaking
fine.
my brain.
We'll say that for you, swapping the alarm to like rave music is not big enough deal to need to roll. And you see the soldiers like they do hesitate for a second as suddenly like they're in a little club. But if you want to roll a skill check to try and download a map of the submarine, you can definitely do that. Mother used the hack or fix trigger and successfully downloaded the blueprints to the submarine. She saw that they were on the far end of the submarine and that it was essentially a winding nest of human-sized corridors and rooms. This would allow Mother to guide her squad mates if they make a push into the rest of the submarine. Since nobody had dealt with the human soldiers though, the 3 mechs in the hangar all took 1 point of damage from the sustained fire. Then Sawbones entered the scene.
I feel like someone else is gonna come in and try to kill a bunch of these humans. So, can I read a situation to read the map and try to figure out where I think the most likely place for our people would be?
Sawbones was successful, so I described an area of the submarine that looked like it had only one entry point, it was easily defendable, and essentially, it's where she would keep a high-value hostage. Again, nobody dealt with the shooting, so all the mechs took an additional point of damage. Partisan was next to enter the scene and stood facing all the soldiers that fired upon Team Effort. At this point, Jackalope and Archangel, you're handling that situation, so you're keeping them under control, keeping an eye on them. Mother and Sawbones, you can tell, are both busy. One of them's hacking, one of them is reading a map. What do you do?
Well, I mean, there's a fucking bunch of guys shooting at us.
Yep.
Sick 'em, boy.
Yeah, I'll approach them menacingly with a spear and a fucking axe, you know?
Okay, if you're trying to intimidate them, or are you actually gonna murder some fools?
I like the
Applying
idea, though.
fist to faces, that would work with me applying my mech's fists to their faces.
Yes, applying fist to faces is the I'm gonna beat someone up.
Fight in open,
Trigger.
brutal, unarmed combat, he says so specifically.
Yeah, so if you want to you don't need your weapons against humans. You can just grab and crush. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, okay, I am gonna start stomping on them till they stop shooting.
Okay.
Like, they can make the decision to stop shooting anytime.
Make a check. Partisan, in typical Partisan style, opted for violence and rolled a natural 20. Partisan was across the room in only 2 strides, and a soldier was crushed beneath his mech. This was enough to make the soldiers panic and bolt. Any organized response from the soldiers was instantly broken as they all fled into the human-scale corridors, fleeing for their lives. With that, Aramis flew down the shaft and joined her allies. With the mech chamber under their control, the party needed to continue the rescue mission on foot. They decided that Aramis, Archangel, Partisan, and Sawbones would be the ones to enter the corridors, while Mother stayed in her mech to provide tech support, and Jackalope would remain to keep the soldiers under control. The 4 pilots hurried down the corridors, following Mother's guidance on where to go. Aramis and Archangel took the lead using the Act Unseen trigger to scout the paths ahead. I decided to periodically introduce challenges to hold their progress, and would often bounce the scene back to Mother and Jackalope to keep them involved. The first issue the group came across was a group of 3 Vestan soldiers that had set up at the end of a hallway, guns pointed in the direction of team effort.
Okay, I'm gonna pull back, whisper. Mother, is there another way around behind them?
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm going to pull a grenade out and just hold it with my sword.
When you do that, I'm got my finger pressed to my ears, raise my eyebrows, and I'm mouthing what the fuck are you doing?
Just in case.
I'm just no, gesturing, stop it, across the neck, Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay.
Shove the grenade back in my robe.
Unlike the rest of you, Mother can generate a 3D image in her brain of how these corridors go up, down, left, right, and has this almost rotating hologram version of this map. Using that, you can see that while it's not technically on the map, if they back off a little bit, take a different corridor, there's a room that they can pass fully through into a different corridor that would get them behind them, but it's close. It'll be only a few meters behind them, whereas this way is a bit of a distance.
So they would be closer to the people they try to avoid, but also closer to the objective.
Yeah, so they'd be on the other side of them, but they'd be a dangerously close. Whereas at the moment they're maybe a 10-meter corridor. There could be a gun shootout. If they take this path, they're gonna be right behind them. So they might still need to handle them. If you're stealthy, you could pass by them unknown.
There actually would be another way, but if you seem to have problems with enemies around, you might be closer to them than before. So it depends on if you want to risk it or, I don't know, just be closer to take them out immediately.
Right, got it, thanks. So I guess the 2 quiet of us, we head around the back, take out 2. Maybe when you see us coming from behind, you guys can handle the 3rd one.
Sure.
From a meta point of view, who else has take someone out?
I have Assault, which is technically an attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assault is getting a gunfight.
Okay.
I'm covered in there, I guess.
Ooh, with take someone out, this says this is probably a single person, but could be 2 people that are relatively close together.
I will say, if you want to go behind them, you and Archangel, and you want to take someone out, you can do it as just a normal roll to do 1 each. If one of you wants to try and do 2 of them, it turns into a risky roll.
But it says any more than 2 is a risky roll.
Yes, that's true, but I am the GM. I say it's a risky
fine.
roll.
Fine.
Aramis and Archangel took the alternate route and stealthily positioned behind the group of soldiers. On their signal, each one dived on a soldier in an attempt to take them out. In the same moment, Sawbones and Partisan opened fire, trying to cover for any failed attacks. The way this went down was Archangel managed to cut down his target, but Laurie failed to get the jump on hers. The soldier tackled her and they began scuffling against the wall. Sawbones and Partisan both had risky checks to make. Sawbones made a risky assault check and with a 22 managed to fire a carefully aimed bullet into the soldier wrestling Aramis. Meanwhile, Partisan didn't want to open fire towards his own team, so he rushed to the remaining soldier with an apply fists to face. He rolled a 16, taking 1 point of damage as the soldier shot at him, but he did manage to reach the soldier and pistol whipped him into unconsciousness. They had overcome their first challenge and I moved the scene back to the hangar. Jackalope had been left to protect the empty mechs. Having witnessed most of Team Effort exit their mechs and hurry down the corridors, some of the surrendered soldiers began plotting. He could tell that they were whispering to each other and glancing at the remaining Vestan assault mechs. Not willing to take any chances, Jackalope used his flamethrower to burn out these remaining mechs. This was very successful in breaking any growing ambition in the soldiers, and they returned to their dejected state. Meanwhile, I asked Mother if she would like to do anything to aid the group, outside of just providing navigation support. Since the submarine's departure was imminent, Mother wanted to slow this down. She attempted to hack the submarine's controls, randomizing them to cause chaos. So, when she rolled a 9, a failure, I decided to lean into this chaos. You're pretty confident with your hacking. It's, as you said, you kind of were so in sync with the technology especially the weak technology of this planet, that you get a little bit arrogant and you kind of don't pay full attention to what you're actually fucking with, and you shut down one of the hydraulic stabilizers, and the entire ship or submarine begins to rotate at a 90-degree angle, causing all of the unbolted down bits of furniture and scattered equipment to just collapse, and you guys as well stumble, sliding down as it rotates, and you jolt the entire submarine at a 90-degree angle on its side, causing a lot of damage, because a lot of the people who stood in the middle of the room have suddenly had quite a nasty fall to the edge of the room. You two, still in your mechs, have like skidded and are now like stood sideways on a wall. And those of you running down the corridor suddenly feel the submarine lurch as it rotates, and you skid and are now running alongside of a corridor, having to leap doorways. And you can suddenly come up to what should be a left turn, but is now a climb.
Why are we listing?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna like put my finger to my like intercom, like, what's happening?
Sorry.
With my next challenge kind of decided for me, the on-foot crew began to climb up the newly created wall. This was easily overcome by skill checks and the odd mobility hardsuit. I did check in with Mother on whether she wanted to attempt to fix the listing submarine, and she decided she would try again and make it right. So she rolled a new hack or fix check and failed again. I'm gonna say, because you are a proficient hacker, you are successful in that you do rotate it 90 degrees the other way. However, what you didn't account for was the pilot also rotating it 90 degrees back the correct way. So between the two of you, you 180 it onto the other side, causing the hostages behind Jackalope and Mother are now scuttling the other way down the ship, and it's getting messy. Everything collapses the other way across the ship, and now the group is disorientated in a whole different kind of way. At this point, the on-foot team reached their target, but is protected by a squad of 6 Vestan soldiers and another one of those dog drones from in one of the earlier sessions. As both Team Effort and the Vestan soldiers panicked to get back on their feet, a fight broke out. Each pilot took 1 point of damage as a spray of bullets fired upon them. Sawbones used her mobility hardsuit to fly up the rotated corridor and used assault to fire on the soldiers as she did so. With a successful check, she wounded several soldiers. Archangel charged the dog drone and engaged it with his sword. A success meant that he held its attention and wounded it. Partisan also opened fire and, along with Sawbones, killed the majority of the soldiers. Aramis used the stealth hardsuit to go invisible and used the take someone out trigger to kill one of the few remaining soldiers. Meanwhile, back in the hangar, Mother, what you doing?
Nothing, please.
Sorry I baited you into this whole situation.
Quiet.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's funny.
we could do a slow,
Just full commit and just
open
full
a line of
washing
communication
machine.
to the pilot and be like, okay, are you gonna rotate it again or what?
Whatever you do, do it now.
Anyway,
I
we're
love
gonna
that.
turn, isn't it? Let's go.
Yes.
Success. This time you you feel the boat like lurching as the person in the with command is clearly trying to fix the situation. You head them off this time. You fully just hijack controls away from them temporarily, fix the boat yourself, and then lock them for a while. So the boat, the submarine is locked to its current rotation. A little bit more damage as people are like splattered back against the ground, and everything collapses back to the way it was. Those of you fighting suddenly have access to cover, as you can now dip around the back corner you just walked around, and the soldiers, similarly, those of you still alive, try and duck into the room. Archangel, as you're fighting this drone dog, you're slamming around, almost rolling with the dog as you're rotating around the room. But it is back to the correct trajectory, and there's just one soldier. Sorry, go on.
As you guys are returning back onto your feet slowly, you will hear over your comms, fixed it.
With a single Vestan soldier and the damaged dog drone, Team Effort continued their battle. Archangel took another point of damage as the dog drone managed to get on its feet first and lunged at Archangel. As Archangel was getting mauled, Partisan approached, placed the revolver against the back of its head, and pulled the trigger. This was an attempt to show off, and due to the close proximity, it was a risky one. Partisan rolled a 10. The bullet passed through the head of the dog drone, destroying it, but the shrapnel exploded into Archangel's shoulder, and he took another point of damage. Meanwhile, Sawbones fired on the last soldier, killing them. The protection detail was defeated. The team burst into the room they were protecting. It was a total mess, having been spun several times, and sure enough, Captain Farris and Ambassador Banerjee were found within. They were bound, gagged, and due to being thrown around the room, unconscious. Sawbones rushed over and tried to use Patch to wake them up, but was unsuccessful. So the group began to carry them out. But they were running out of time. Partisan took Ambassador Banerjee, and Archangel took the captain. As they were untying them, an alert sounded. Submersion in 1 minute. The group began rushing back along the hallways with Mother calling out directions. During the first 20 seconds, I had Aramis roll a d4. On a 1, they would encounter a soldier. She rolled a 2, and they moved on without issue. During the second half of the run, I had Sawbones roll a d4. On a result of 1 or 2, they would encounter a soldier. She rolled a 1. Aramis was scouting ahead, so she heard them approaching. She sped up, drawing her sword, and attempted to cut them down. But she failed, and the soldier parried her. Sawbones opened fire, but missed her shots. Seeing that the fight was breaking out, Partisan charged the soldier, still carrying Banerjee, and smashed him into the wall with a risky apply fists to face. On a 14, the soldier crumpled, but not before several bullets ripped into Banerjee's unconscious body. With only 30 seconds left before the submarine launched, there was no time to check on him, and the group continued to run for their mech hangar. As Mother saw the team approaching, she began to hack the elevator, hoping to send the group up the moment they arrived. She rolled a natural 1. I privately messaged her 2 options. Either it starts early and begins to rise without them, or it breaks and becomes totally unusable.
Okay, so as I try to hack it, you can hear it's screeching a little bit, like as if it was under too much weight. And then just the console popping open and breaking.
Oh no.
Oh, fuck.
Okay.
So the elevator is effectively broken now.
How did we get in here? Like,
We went down the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
Okay, so the shaft is still open.
Yeah, it's basically just a gaping, probably 10-foot wide, 10-meter wide shaft above you guys to an open.
Wait, so has the ship taken on water then, doing the rotations and everything?
A little bit.
Right.
It took in a little bit of water. Nothing enough to flood it because it didn't stay like it for very long. But you are probably sloshing through an inch of water, and you figure that's probably why everyone's sprinting around like maniacs.
I mean, I do have a winch that could theoretically act like.
What about your winch?
That's what I just said.
Right.
Yeah.
Your winch is 5 long, right? If it's 5 long, the elevator shaft we decided was 6 long. Moments later, the rest of Team Effort piled into the mech hangar and mounted up. With only seconds to spare, the party began to climb on top of Jackalope's size 2 mech, and then set up a winch to get to the top of the shaft. Aramis flew out first to give her allies more time. Okay, so you fly up to the top. As soon as you get there, you suddenly see that the submarine is already moving. You're a little bit of a distance away from port, and it's gonna start picking up speed, and the hatch starts coming down. What are you gonna do to prevent this hatch from closing on everyone?
What kind of hatch is it? Is it lowering, or is it elevator doors?
It's lowering. It's you think of a tin lid attached on a hinge.
Could I try and just smash it off?
Yeah, you can do that. I would. Okay, so there's something that it doesn't come up very often because it's for tense situations called a heroic skill check. This would be a heroic skill check, which means you only succeed on a 20 plus because it's
Well, that's not gonna
very
happen.
difficult. It's supposed to be very difficult, and this would be you're trying to rip off a submarine hatch that is bigger than you.
How does a projected shield work?
It's like
Is
a
it
force field that hovers between you and the target, automatically swoops around you.
Can I put that on and then stand in the way?
I will say yes, but this will break it. Not permanently, but you'll have to mark it as destroyed, so you have to pay to repair.
Wow. How many repairs do I have? Oh, pain. How long do I have?
I think this game
Just
is
leave
supposed
us
to be
down here to die. Don't break your shield.
No, I don't. Oh, my God, fine. Like, how much does it cost to repair? I love my shield. Just one.
Oh no, it's one repair to repair a destroyed weapon or system. So it just costs you one.
Oh, easy. Fine, yeah. I activate my shield and stand in the way.
Okay, so you're you brace yourself against the open hatch with your shield acting as like almost like a magnetic repellent against the closing lid. You see the hinges begin to spark, and you give people time that they need to quickly clamber out. At the cost of one of her systems, Aramis held the hatch open long enough to give her allies a chance to climb out of the submarine, and moments later, it descended beneath the waves, leaving team effort to swim to shore with their rescued hostages. That was a very intense but very fun narrative scene. I'm usually a very prep-heavy GM, so going into this with so few notes was a little bit scary, but it left me the freedom to respond to the party's ideas. I think that this left me open to keeping the scene dynamic and created some great moments such as Mother causing her own problems and allowing me to easily adapt the scene to those unexpected events. Events such as the hostages are now unconscious and I can put it on the players to get them out safely rather than having them walk themselves out. Speaking of which, Partisan once again has gotten himself into trouble due to his recklessness. Union will absolutely have something to say about his friendly fire and the risk that he put on Banerjee's life. Once on land, Sawbones was able to rouse Captain Faris. She was disorientated but relieved to be rescued. She also patched up Banerjee, giving him a better chance at survival. They had a brief bit of time to repair while waiting for a dropship to arrive. But we can't finish without a big boss fight, can we? However, as you watch the Union dropship circle to pick you up, trying to find a suitable landing spot not too far from the pier, you begin to hurry towards it, approaching with the rescue VIPs in tow. We'll say, for the sake of convenience, that Faris will pick up Banerjee and carry him. You see a searing beam of light split the air beside you and lances through buildings and shipping containers without pause, carving a molten, glowing path in its wake. The detonation of several ruptured fuel tanks sends enormous fireballs into the sky, and the dropship veers off sharply to avoid both the explosions and whatever it was that caused them. Banerjee and Faris will rush for cover as you all begin to seek out this sudden final threat. Before you know it, a wall of flames has cut them off from you guys. Through the flames, you see a heat haze shimmering above flash molten metal. You catch a brief glimpse of a mech, just as it disappears in a crack of displaced air, reappearing elsewhere seconds later. The design is clearly Vestan, but it looks more advanced than the others that you've faced so far. Sleek, menacing, and bristling with weaponry. As the mech stares you down, you hear a cold voice crackle over the comms.
Finally, we've caught up with our meddlesome alien invaders. You're a hard bunch to pin down, but your interference ends now. Burn it all down.
The voice says to some additional hostile contacts that begin to move into position. Fire is spreading across the docks.
And don't fret, lads. Off-worlders don't have rights here. No survivors.
And this will begin the final combat of Solstice Rain. This combat puts the group against their first Ultra, an Ultra operator with the Commander template, and due to having 6 players, 3 activations around. It was joined by an Elite Hive and a Veteran Pyro. The combat would also have a selection of grunt reinforcements from the Hornet, Scourer, and Sentinel NPC types. There's no sit rep for this combat, it's a fight to the death, and Colonel Sorvan Kiros, the pilot of the operator, was built to bring death. Since Colonel Sorvan Kiros is an important NPC, and we are planning to progress into Winter Scar, I added another mechanic. Whenever they scanned the operator, they could of course gain information about the mech, but they could instead request Rio hack some valuable information. The information they could claim consists of the following, in this order. The Furies are responsible for several targeted attacks against Union operatives, resulting in numerous deaths of Union agents. He has multiple encrypted files tying him to Project Tartarus. He has, for some reason, had several years of space-focused training. The Furies match the serial data for several raids on space-oriented LSA infrastructure, such as launch facilities, companies manufacturing rockets and satellite technology, and observatories. And lastly, he has several encrypted files naming a system called Storm. Unfortunately, as you'll soon see, the fight was pretty challenging and they spent very few actions on scanning him, so they didn't learn most of this information. But hey, the thought was there. Alright, enough rambling. Let's get into the final combat of Solstice Rain. Jackalope kicked off the fight, moving and boosting south via flight to gain some early heat. He then bolstered Mother. The Pyro is a slow mech, so it moved and boosted, ending its turn with a flaming wall for protection. Partisan moved and boosted, heading for the Operator. He also used his Everest initiative to boost into cover. The Operator, also known as the Nemesis, has a system called Trace Drive that turns its standard move into a teleport. This makes it very nimble and excellent at hunting a line of sight. It teleported onto a container and then used its Nova missile, targeting an explosive barrel next to Partisan. Nova missiles have seeking and ignore line of sight. These barrels are littered throughout the map and when hit, explode for 2d6 damage and create a hazardous terrain which deals 5 burn. Pretty nasty. The Nemesis then dropped into cover. Sawbones moved and initiative boosted to the north, placed a winch, and then she boosted to climb on top of the containers. The Nemesis went again, teleporting past a container and getting line of sight on Sawbones. It then barraged, targeting Partisan with its Raptor plasma rifle and Sawbones with its Nova missiles. It crit Partisan, dealing an additional 1d6 damage thanks to the deadly trait, and breaking his structure. However, his custom paint job took the hit. Sawbones avoided the missile though. The Nemesis has the Limitless trait though, allowing it to overcharge. It rolled a 1 heat and then fired on Sawbones again, missing again. Archangel moved and boosted to the winch, initiative boosted up the winch and fired his Cyclone Pulse Rifle at the Nemesis. This hit dealing 11 damage. Not only great damage, but it also disabled his Fade Generator until the end of his next turn. The Fade Generator makes the Operator invisible at the end of its turn, and it lasts until the start of its turn. It takes damage, or it makes a reaction. Because I didn't like it being visible, the Nemesis took its final activation of the round and prepared to do its most fucked up strategy. It teleported to a position where it could get Archangel and Sawbones in a straight line, and then it used its full action to fire its short cycle lance. This is a line 30 beam in which all targets must make an agility saving throw or lose 1 structure. On a success, they're reduced to 1 hit point. Archangel made the save and was reduced to 1 hit point, while Sawbones failed and lost an entire structure. But since they were stood on 3 high terrain, which was destroyed in the attack, they both fell, taking 3 points of armor-piercing damage. This made Archangel lose a structure too. That might be harsh, but this was the very final fight, and I wanted to make them earn the win. Now, having done all of that, it's only during the editing of this video that I noticed an annoying little word that made all of this illegal. Ordnance. Firing this lance has to be the first thing it does on its turn. So, moving to an optimal spot and then firing it, that isn't allowed. Whoops. Mother moved, boosted, and bolstered Jackalope. The Hive was my last mech, so it moved, boosted, and deployed its Razor Swarms into one of the choke points. Lastly, Aramis activated her Everest's core power and moved, boosted, and free boosted after the Southern team, finishing her turn by bolstering Sawbones. That was the end of round 1. I knew this would be a scary fight, but having 2 pilots lose structure right out of the gate was a bit spooky. Makes me feel alive though. Luckily, the super damage lance system has a recharge of 6+, so there's no guarantee I'll even get to fire it again. Archangel put some good early damage on the Nemesis, but it does have 5 structure. It'll take a lot more than that to bring the kernel down. I decided to throw out some early reinforcements in the form of a Grunt Sentinel to the north and a Grunt Scourer to the south. Since the players had finished the previous round, I went first, activating the Grunt Scourer. I liked getting use out of my grunts early since they're so ephemeral. It moved, shot Mother with its thermal lance, and boosted into cover. Archangel fired at the Sentinel, missing. He moved north, taking an overwatch from the Sentinel, and then rolled a grenade at the Nemesis. The Nemesis passed the save, taking 2 damage, and losing his invisibility. He then overcharged, took 3 heat, and shot the Nemesis, missing. Good effort, but unfortunate rolls for Archangel. The Sentinel Grunt moved into melee with Archangel and barraged, hitting with his shotgun but missing with his sword. Partisan stabilized to heal up, and then risked moving through the fire. He passed his engineering check though, so he didn't begin burning, and he moved to engage the Sentinel. The Nemesis teleported onto a container and fired his Nova missile, hitting Archangel, Partisan, and his own Sentinel. The Grunt died, and Archangel took his second point of structure damage, using his armament redundancy system to save a weapon. Having roughed up the northern team enough, the Nemesis used Step, a 50 range teleport on a recharge 5, to appear on the southern side of the battlefield, safely in cover. Mother fired at the Nemesis with her assault rifle. She missed, but the Reliable knocked off the invisibility. This broke its first structure, impairing the Nemesis. She then locked onto it, and thanks to the Sniper Team reserve, automatically dealt 2 points of armor-piercing damage. Very clever. The Nemesis teleported onto a container and barraged. It crit Jackalope with its Raptor Plasma rifle, and then hit both Jackalope and Mother with its Nova missile, even critting Mother. This broke structure on Mother, impairing her. Jackalope took to the skies again, moving closer to the Nemesis. He hit the Nemesis with its flamethrower, dealing 1 damage, 4 burn, and 2 heat. This was pretty bad for the Nemesis because, as far as I'm aware, NPCs can't clear burn with a stabilize, so the Nemesis was about to be praying for good rolls. Jackalope then landed on the container nearby via a skirmish talent, and then activated his core power. This makes his allies resistant to damage and gain +1s to stuff. The Nemesis barraged, critting Jackalope with his Raptor rifle, who braced to reduce the damage. A good idea, as this would have broken structure. It fired its Nova missile at Aramis, hitting her too. It overcharged, taking 3 points of heat, and crit Mother with its rifle. The Nemesis can put out a lot of damage. I see why Ultras are to be feared. It failed its engineering check though, so the burn damage continued to push it towards that next bit of structure. Aramis flew onto the container and used her Ferrous Lash to pull the Nemesis, and, bear with me here, 3 spaces diagonally up, meaning it fell 6 spaces total and took 6 damage. I actually have no idea if this is allowed with forced movement, but in the interest of keeping the game moving, I allowed it. The Nemesis took structure damage and lost its Nova missiles. Luckily, the Nemesis has the Juggernaut trait, so at the end of its next turn, it'll get them back. Where was that trait for the poor Rainmaker? Aramis then moved up to the edge with her free boost and shot the Nemesis with her shotgun. The Pyro moved and boosted closer to the fight. It's slow, so that's all it could do. Sawbones moved and boosted along the top towards the Hive. She fired her mortar at the Hive, hitting. Finally, the Hive climbed onto the container with a move and a boost. It drone barraged Sawbones, who had to make a choice, either become immobilized and impaired or move 5 spaces. Of the Hive's choice, knowing the fire was so close, she chose the former. That was the end of round 2. They've managed to knock off 2 structure from the Nemesis, but technically haven't killed anything yet. The Nemesis is stuck burning though, which could become a problem if the dice don't play along. Meanwhile, several party members have lost structure, with some getting scarily low. I added 2 more reinforcements, a Grunt Scourer and a Grunt Hornet. These were the last of the reinforcements and would hopefully be a nice distraction. Mother went straight for the reinforcements, moving to get the Hornet and Scourer within line of sight. She shot the Hornet with her assault rifle, destroying it, and then locked onto the Scourer, triggering her Sniper Team and just killing it for free. Very clever. The Nemesis activated and recharged its Step. It shot Aramis with its Raptor rifle and used its Step to teleport far back from the enemy line. Luckily, at the end of its turn, the burn cleared and it got its Nova missiles back. Partisan moved and boosted up to the new Scourer and cut them down. The poor reinforcements didn't last long at all. The Pyro moved and boosted towards Aramis, finally getting someone within range of its weapons. It used its flamethrower on Aramis. Luckily, since Jackalope hadn't taken his turn yet, she still had resistance to the burn. Aramis flew down to ground level and tried to Ferrous Lash the Pyro. The Pyro passed the save though. She then shot it with her magnetic cannon, but due to the armor and a good hull save, it took no damage and was not pulled, and she continued to burn. The Nemesis teleported back onto some terrain and barraged. It missed its Raptor rifle shot on Jackalope, but it hit Aramis with its Nova missiles. It then overcharged, taking 5 heat and taking reactor damage. It tried again to rifle Jackalope, but missed again. Terrible use of overcharge. Sawbones fired her mortar at the Hive, dealing a small amount of damage. The Nemesis teleported back behind cover and stabilized to clear its exposed and heat. Jackalope flew down from the terrain and stabilized to reduce heat and reload, and then, due to flying, he took 3 heat. The Hive hacked Partisan with its drone barrage, and he chose to be moved. The Hive moved Partisan next to one of the barrels and then hit the barrel with its Hunter-Killer Nexus to blow it up. Partisan took damage and was now stood in flaming ground. Archangel stabilized to remove heat and reload. and then he moved into some cover. That was the end of round 3. Our reinforcements have all been wiped out, meaning the current combatants would be all that remains. Health is low across team effort, with lots of stabilizers occurring to offset that heat and the conditions. I still haven't recharged my beam. I'm hoping that comes back soon so I can line up another nasty shot with it. The Nemesis is by far the biggest threat, but he hasn't been totally overwhelming, just keeping pace with the party and spreading the damage around. Let's see if team effort can lock him down and get the kill. Since team effort finished the last round, the Nemesis kicked off this round, recharging its step. It teleported onto some terrain and fired its Nova missiles at Jackalope, missing. It then used its step to return to the north side of the battle. With only the Hive remaining up there, it needed to provide some offense to the Vestin forces. Archangel activated his steady aim protocol and barraged, first firing his Cyclone pulse rifle, which missed due to the invisibility. Still, 5 reliable did knock its invisibility off for the second attack. He then fired his battle rifle with Jaeger rounds. This hit, knocking the Nemesis away and prone. The Pyro moved and fired his flamethrower at Aramis, missing. I had the Nemesis use its Voice of Authority reaction, and the Pyro rolled again, this time hitting. Aramis ignited again, taking structure damage. With its last action, it locked on to Aramis. Partisan stood in the flames and fired his howitzer at the Nemesis, missing. He then moved and boosted away from the flames and moved towards the Hive. The Nemesis stood up and used Telefrag. Archangel succeeded an agility saving throw, so took half damage as the Nemesis appeared right behind him. Annoyingly, the Nemesis takes a bit of damage for pulling this off, and it was actually enough to do structure damage, and it lost its trace drive, at least until the end of his next turn. It then overcharged, taking 4 points of heat and fired at Archangel point blank, critting and dealing 11 damage. Archangel had no choice but to brace to save his structure. Sawbones moved carefully past the flames and barraged. She fired her battle rifle, which missed, but her heavy machine gun hit for 12 damage, destroying another structure off the Nemesis and breaking its invisibility generator. Since it was now on its last structure and visible, Sawbones overcharged and fired again. This time she missed. The Nemesis was now in panic mode, and luckily for me, it recharged its short cycle lance. And it was stood perfectly to hit Archangel, Sawbones, and Partisan. So of course that's what I did. Much to my dismay, they all succeeded their saves, so were all just reduced to 1 hit point. That should have been so good. But I'm petty, so I overcharged, taking 3 heat and shot at Sawbones because damn, she deals a lot of damage. It crit, breaking structure, and then moved into what little cover was left. And then its invisibility repaired. Aramis flew onto some terrain and then stabilized to cool and clear burn. The Hive attacked Sawbones with its Hunter-Killer Nexus, and this was enough to trigger structure damage that destroyed her mech. One of team effort was now on foot. Then, to be especially mean, it deployed some Razor Swarms, blocking her path to safety. Jackalope moved and boosted away from the Pyro. The whole squad was now dead set on finishing off the Nemesis. Mother finished up the round by moving and boosting after her allies and bolstering Jackalope. That was the end of round 4, and things have really heated up. Sawbones is now on foot after losing her mech, but the Nemesis is now on its last structure. The Pyro and the Hive are still pretty healthy though, so team effort will have to deal with them sooner rather than later. The battle has truly descended into an all-out, brutal combat now, and the net is closing on the Nemesis. The Nemesis kicked off round 5. For safety, it teleported onto some terrain and then used Step to teleport all the way to the south. It then shot Mother in the back, critting her and breaking structure. Aramis used her projected shield protocol on the Nemesis. She then used her Ferrous Lash to throw the Hive off the container, dealing fall damage and knocking it prone. She then moved into cover. The Pyro used Explosive Jet to gain some distance on team effort and then ignited Mother with its flamethrower. Partisan rushed the prone Hive and barraged with 2 melee attacks. This dealt good damage, but the Hive lived. The Nemesis teleported onto some terrain and barraged. It hit Jackalope with its rifle, but the custom paint job saved him from structure damage. It followed up with a Nova missile that missed. Jackalope stabilized, healing and reloading. He then moved slightly closer to the Pyro. The Hive stood up and hacked Partisan with its drone barrage. He chose to become immobilized and impaired this time because getting moved with all this fire around was a bad idea. It then tried to finish off Partisan with a Hunter-Killer Nexus, but it missed due to being engaged. Archangel stabilized to cool and reload and then headed south. The Nemesis barraged again, both attacks on Jackalope. Both hit, but after the stabilize, he had enough health to take it. It then teleported back behind cover. Sawbones was now on foot and wearing a mobility hardsuit. She flew over the container and into cover. Mother was stunned, so had no turn, but continued burning. That was the end of round 5, and thanks to the Nemesis fleeing, it had survived another round and managed to continue prodding at the survivors. They finally begun working on the Hive, but Sawbones has gone into hiding, which means they have less damage to put out into the Veston mechs. This might be a closer combat than I thought. The Hive kicked off round 6 and recharged its Razor Swarms. It attacked Partisan with its Hunter-Killer Nexus, hitting. Partisan tried to deflect this attack but failed. As such, he took structure damage. Mother stabilized to heal and clear burn. She then moved and overcharged to boost into cover. The Pyro moved up to Jackalope and used its explosive vents, clearing all heat and dealing damage equal to that heat cleared, but Jackalope succeeded his save and avoided the damage. Partisan barraged the Hive again, hitting once and leaving it very low health. He overcharged, swung again, and missed. Then he cleared his burn. The Nemesis teleported onto the terrain and barraged, critting Jackalope with its Raptor rifle and breaking structure and hitting Mother. Archangel rushed south with a move and a boost, climbing onto some terrain. He fired at the Nemesis across the map with his Cyclone Pulse rifle, hitting for 17 damage and finally bringing down the Nemesis. This triggered the Nemesis self-erasure trait, and the mech exploded in a fireball. This could have dealt damage, but nobody was anywhere near it. Colonel Sorvan Kiros was dead. Just the Hive and the Pyro to clean up. Sawbones was still on foot, and she ran out from the cover and fired her service pistol at the Hive. This hit and killed the Hive, which was great. Good work, Sawbones. Aramis hurried towards the Pyro with a move and a free boost. She tried to throw it with her Ferrous Slash, but it avoided the attempt. She then shot it in the back with her shotgun, but its armor fully blocked the damage. Jackalope skirmished, first using Lockbreaker to leave engagement and then missing his thermal rifle attack. He then locked onto it and moved back into engagement. That was the end of round 6, and they have killed the Nemesis and the Hive. Only the Pyro remains, and although it's still perfectly healthy, I don't foresee it winning this battle alone. Team Effort did a great job dealing with the quirks of the Nemesis. They should be very proud. The Pyro began round 7 and would be all the mix that I get. It ignited Jackalope, and that was about it. Mother activated her core power, advanced intrusion package, and hacked the Pyro, but she failed the hack, and it only became impaired. She moved closer, overcharged, and attempted a balance control lockout hack. This time it worked, and she pulled the mech closer to Aramis. Aramis stepped into engagement and barraged with her shotgun and melee weapon. Both hit, and she applied her Exemplar's mark. Archangel moved to gain line of sight and shot the Pyro with his armor-piercing battle rifle. This dealt structure damage, and the poor Pyro rolled all ones, meaning a direct hit and the end of the Pyro. The Furies had been defeated, and Team Effort had finally saved Captain Faris and the Ambassador. This combat was a lot of fun. The Nemesis proved a real threat, even if I didn't get to recharge its big laser as much as I would have liked. And to be honest, if it had, we might have seen some more pilots on foot. I think it did make for a good climactic fight to Solstice Rain. After the battle concluded, the dropship circled back around, and our pilots returned to the Rio Grande victorious. As they arrived on board, there was a celebration of their success and the safe return of the missing personnel. The group was allowed their glory, but once the celebrations calmed down, Partisan was pulled aside by security and led away, not to be seen since. While he was a highly capable fighter, his reckless actions caused harm to civilians and allies alike, and the rescue nearly turned tragic in its final moments due to his actions. Union owes him a great debt, but cannot afford to continue working with him, or be seen to let his actions slide. The rest of the team reached license level 2, and you'll be able to see their new mix when we begin Operation Winter Scar. So that was our first ever Lancer game. It was fun. It did take me a few sessions to get my head around certain aspects of the game, and while I really enjoy the combat especially, my god is it intimidating to GM. Especially once elites and ultras enter the equation. They have way too many traits to hold in your head. I definitely was not as tactical as I could have been, but I needed to intentionally forget some NPC abilities in order to not stall out. As for the module, I find Solstice Rain to be a good beginner adventure. It's simple, just a rescue mission. The combats are pretty diverse and the maps are dynamic and fun. If I was to offer some feedback, it would be to give a bit more time to the plot, especially the actual rescue mission. You spend many hours reaching the moment you get to save the hostages, and the module gives you literally no guidance on how to approach this. If this was your first time ever GMing, it would be extremely difficult to come up with some ideas without any guidance on approach. So it definitely feels like it expects you to already know how to GM to run this module. I understand that Lancer is first and foremost a combat game, but it's still an RPG, and that means that the adventure should give some of its word count to the big plot moments. Otherwise, it could have just been a series of vaguely connected battle scenarios for a war game. Other than my choice to overuse skill challenges, I ran Solstice Rain pretty by the book, and it worked out great. For Winter Scar, though, I'm going to take my more typical approach to modules and put a personal spin on it. I hope you look forward to it. Creating these campaign diaries has been a blast. I really hope you've enjoyed watching them as much as I've enjoyed GMing and creating them. If you want to see more Lancer on the channel, then be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. That is actually it for now, though. From one pilot to another, I'll see you soon. Over and out.